What happens when a controversial social media agitator starts pulling strings inside the Pentagon? This isn't just political theater, it's a clash caught on record with a U.S. Senator going head-to-head with the Secretary of Defense over alleged extremist influence in military promotions and firings. It's a story that moves from whispered allegations to explosive accusations, touching everything from anti-Semitic conspiracy theories to the sudden removal of one of America's most critical cyber defense leaders. And the deeper you look, the more it feels like national security itself is being shaped by the loudest voices online, rather than the most qualified in the room.
And again, thank you, Chairman Wicker, Ranking Member Reed, for holding this hearing, Mr. Secretary. We have a short amount of time, so I'm just going to ask a few simple questions, and I would just appreciate if, for some of them, you would just answer yes or no. And so, Secretary Hegseth, would you agree that every senior official in the Department of Defense must reflect the values and conduct that our service members must uphold and our citizens expect?
Senator, we want to uphold the highest possible standards.
I'll take that for a yes. So would you also agree, then, that anti-Semitism and anti-Semitic conspiracy theories have no place in our government or military? Yes or no?
They should not.
Thank you. So would you also agree that anyone who has posted, and I'm going to quote, anti-Semitic conspiracy theories lifted right out of a neo-Nazi playbook, end quote, shouldn't be anywhere near a position of power? Yes or no?
Since I don't believe the characterization of many officials in the news media, I would need to see precisely what's being characterized.
But generally, would you not say that if we thought something was coming out of a neo-Nazi playbook, it doesn't have any place in our Department of Defense? Now, Secretary Hegseth, the quote that I just read you was referencing Ms. Kingsley Wilson, the DOD press secretary. It's a direct quote from her, who my Republican colleagues on this committee have also expressed alarm over due to her comments. In fact, one colleague said, and I'm going to quote again, "Obviously, I don't agree with her comments. I trust the Pentagon will address this," end quote. However, in the months since, not only have you not addressed these anti-Semitic comments, you have promoted Ms. Wilson. This seems to be at odds, honestly, with President Trump's commitment, very public commitment, to combat anti-Semitism, which you just said you too agreed with. So, Secretary Hegseth, given the rise in anti-Semitic violence, hate crimes in our nation, and to show that the Trump administration, your administration, does have a zero-tolerance policy for anti-Semitism, will you dismiss Ms. Kingsley from her role as a U.S. military spokesperson today, yes or no?
Again, that's why I referenced the context and characterization.
But we'll send you the quote,
I've worked directly with her. She does a fantastic job, and there's any suggestion that I or her or others are party to anti-Semitism is a mischaracterization attempting to win political points.
Sir, and I'm going to
Senator, you're attempting to win political points on the backs of mischaracterizing the statements of a member of my department, and I'm not going to stand for that.
You are not a serious person. You are not serious about rooting out, fighting anti-Semitism within the ranks of our DOD. It's despicable. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. I'm going to move on to General Hawk. The sudden and inexplicable dismissal of General Hawk. He serves as both the director of the National Security Agency, commander of U.S. Cybercom. It's deeply concerning, raises significant questions about the decision-making process, its potential consequences. Public reports indicate that the removal of General Hawk, who has served his country proudly, has been influenced by social media influencer, a personality on social media, Laura Loomer, spreads conspiracy theories. She's been denounced even by Republicans. And the idea is that any leaders within our agencies responsible for our nation's security, somebody would be dismissed based on the advice of a social media influencer is alarming, to say the least. It's surely not how we should be running our military. So were you consulted regarding General Hawk's dismissal, yes or no?
Well, Senator, I would not advise believing everything you read in the media. And I'm consulted on every single decision.
Okay,
I'm the decision maker for the department, and we all serve at the pleasure of the president. And
so
we have the prerogative to make those decisions for the best for the country, and we did that.
Did you personally approve Mr. Hawk's dismissal, yes or no?
Anyone coming or going at the Defense Department, especially at that level, would ultimately be a decision made by me, and I stand behind that.
Did you personally relieve him? Did you personally relieve him? Yes or
Anyone
no?
at that level
You did,
who is
so that's a
relieved
yes.
would be relieved by the Secretary of Defense.
Was there a specific justification for General Hawk's dismissal? Was there a specific justification for General Hawk's dismissal?
Ma'am, we all serve at the pleasure of the President, and the President deserves the type of commanders and advisors that he thinks will best equip him to accomplish the mission.
Did you discuss General Hawk's dismissal with Laura Loomer prior to his removal?
I don't discuss who I talk about anything with, but ultimately this is my decision, and he serves at the pleasure of the President, and that's why he's no longer there.
So do you believe it's appropriate for any social media personality to influence personnel decisions in your department, yes or no?
I believe your time is up, Senator.
Oh, it is not up to you to tell me when my time is up.
Well, the time
And I am
the
going to
senator.
say, Mr. Secretary, you're either feckless or complicit. You're not in control of your department. You're just unserious. It is shocking. You're not combating anti-Semitism within your ranks. It's a dangerous and pivotal time in our nation's history. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back. And I don't appreciate the smirk, sir. You are the Secretary of Defense.
The time.
It all began with Senator Rosen taking her seat and wasting no time. Her tone was sharp, her questions direct, and her patience already thin. She opened with a simple request, yes or no answers. Would the Secretary agree that every senior official in the Department of Defense must reflect the values and conduct expected of service members and citizens? He replied with the kind of vague affirmation that politicians often lean on. Rosen took it as a yes, but it set the tone: short answers, no hiding. She wasn't here to make friends. She was here to make a point. And that point hit hard when she brought up Laura Loomer, a name that sends waves through political circles. Loomer is no stranger to controversy, known for her far-right activism and for pushing conspiracy theories, many of them anti-Semitic. Yet here was Rosen alleging that this very figure was influencing who gets promoted or removed from key Pentagon positions. That's not just eyebrow-raising, it's alarming. Rosen's question was clear: shouldn't anti-Semitism have no place in our government or military? The Secretary's answer: they should not. A tepid reply to what should have been an unequivocal statement. But Rosen wasn't letting it go. She pressed further, asking if someone who had posted anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, lifted right out of a neo-Nazi playbook, should ever hold a position of power. Instead of a clean yes or no, the Secretary danced around the question, questioning the media's characterizations and calling for more context. But Rosen wasn't asking about context, she was asking about principle, and the principle was about to get personal. She dropped a name: Kingsley Wilson, the Pentagon's press secretary. According to Rosen, Wilson had made exactly the kind of anti-Semitic comments she was describing. Republicans had even voiced concern over her statements. Yet instead of facing consequences, Wilson was promoted. The contrast couldn't have been sharper: a president who publicly vows to combat anti-Semitism and an administration that promotes someone accused of spreading it. To Rosen, it wasn't just hypocrisy, it was proof of a system that talks tough about extremism while quietly rewarding it. The Secretary defended Wilson, calling her fantastic at her job and framing the accusations as political point scoring. But Rosen wasn't buying it. She accused him of being unserious about rooting out anti-Semitism, calling the situation despicable, and saying he should be ashamed. And then she shifted the conversation from one controversy to another, one that would blow the hearing wide open. Enter General Hawk, a highly respected figure who had led both the National Security Agency and U.S. Cyber Command. His sudden dismissal came without clear explanation, but reports suggested something stunning: that his removal had been influenced by none other than Laura Loomer. Even some Republicans, usually aligned with Loomer on certain political points, had denounced her views. Now the idea that someone like her could help decide the fate of one of America's top cyber defense officials was more than a scandal, it was a national security nightmare. The Secretary's defense: he warned against believing everything in the media, claimed he was consulted on every decision, and insisted that anyone leaving the department did so at his discretion. But then came the contradiction: he said he wasn't consulted on Hawk's dismissal, while also claiming the final decision was his. Which was it? This wasn't just a slip, it was a crack in the administration's narrative. Without a clear reason for Hawk's removal, and with conspiracy theories swirling about Loomer's behind-the-scenes influence, the situation reeked of either hidden motives or reckless decision-making. Was this a case of shadow influence from extremist corners of the internet? Or was it a president making impulsive moves without understanding the national security consequences? Neither answer was reassuring. When pressed directly on whether he had discussed Hawke's removal with Loomer, the secretary refused to answer, falling back on vague phrases about serving at the pleasure of the president. Rosen pounced, asking if it was appropriate for any social media personality to influence personnel decisions in the Department of Defense. The exchange ended abruptly, with the secretary trying to cut off her time and Rosen refusing to be silenced. Her final words landed like a hammer, calling him feckless or complicit, accusing him of having lost control of his own department, and warning that this was a dangerous time for the nation. What stood out wasn't just the accusations, it was the raw clash between an elected official demanding accountability and a cabinet secretary evading it. This wasn't about one promotion or one firing. It was about the Pentagon's vulnerability to extremist influence, the willingness of leadership to look the other way, and the growing risk when political loyalty starts outweighing professional competence in matters of national security. Think about what this means. The Department of Defense oversees the most powerful military on Earth. It's responsible for decisions that can change the course of history. And yet, if allegations like these are true, we have influencers from the fringes of the internet shaping who gets to hold key defense roles. These aren't minor jobs, they're positions tied to cybersecurity, intelligence, and the safeguarding of classified information. If those roles can be filled or emptied based on online chatter, we're not just risking bad optics, we're risking national stability. And that's why this hearing matters. It's not just political theater, it's a warning sign that the guardrails meant to keep our defense apparatus insulated from political games are being stripped away. It's a reminder that when leadership fails to confront extremism directly, it doesn't just survive, it thrives, embedding itself deeper into the system. The exchange between Rosen and Hegseth was messy, combative, and at times deeply uncomfortable. But that discomfort is exactly why it's important. It forced into the open questions that many would rather keep behind closed doors. Questions about integrity, accountability, and the quiet power of influence in a digital age where viral voices can shape policy as much as, or more than, the people elected to lead. If online agitators can sway decisions at the highest levels of the Pentagon, then the stakes for our democracy go far beyond one hearing or one news cycle. This is about who really holds power and what they're willing to do with it. And that's a conversation we can't afford to ignore. So what do you think? Is this just political posturing, or are we seeing the dangerous rise of extremist influence in our military's decision-making? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button if you found this eye-opening, subscribe for more deep dives, and stick around, because the next story we're covering takes this controversy to an entirely new level.